Alright, y'all. I am back after about 15 minutes of letting my cup dry from the clear automotive coat that we put on it after I glittered it. As you can see, it's got some shiny spots or whatnot. Anyways, so now I have I let my epoxy sit for probably longer than I wanted to, but we're gonna stir it up real good. At this point, it's sat so long that I don't really want to put too much heat on it. This is where the smooth as glass method comes in. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of heat on it just to take out the bubbles. First, I'm going to put Bling glitter from Recollection, from Michaels, just a little bit. A couple shakes in there, as you can see. I just put a few shakes in there. Sorry, guys. I'm going to stir it up so it doesn't clump. I'm going to have to do this a lot faster than I normally would because it's going to get thick really quick because it's going to cure. I'm going to put the heat gun on it just a little bit, and that's where all the bubbles come out. Of it. So I've got our epoxy, okay, and again with the silicone brush, best thing ever. As you saw in my video in between these two, I cleaned it, showed you how to clean it. Okay, retaped, new tape. Put my hand back in, and I put my little label on the bottom. I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way towards the top. Again, same as with the epoxy before the glitter, light coat on the bottom, make sure it's real nice and even. This coat does not have to necessarily be perfect, but you want to try and get it as even as possible, because you can sand it before you apply your design. I usually do, that way it's less crevices. But this is mainly just to seal the glitter, as a secondary seal from the automotive coat. So it does not necessarily have to be absolutely flawless. Me, I'm kind of OCD and tend to try and get it as even as possible because the less work I have to do with as far as sanding goes, the better off I am. But it does still go very far with the silicone brush. I've only used, I went down to 1 teaspoon of each part instead of 1.5. When I get up here to the top, I use the curve of the brush to go around so that it's not getting on the inside of the cup, but which is also why my tape lightly covers the lip of the cup, so that I'm not having to scrape it off later. I don't like having the epoxy on the lip of the cup, even though it's FDA grade, or FDA approved and food grade and all that other stuff. I just don't like having it on top. I think it looks funny. I put the bling glitter in the epoxy because it just makes it sparklier. And if you're like me and most of my female customers, who doesn't like more glitter? You never have too much glitter. So I've dipped my brush again at this point 3 times, and I'm just about around the cup, and I've got a real nice thin coat. I emphasize the thin part because too much, then you're gonna have to sit the whole 24 hours, and I don't necessarily always have time to sit the whole 24 hours. So the thin coat allows me to set it next to my heat lamp, or my heater. I have a little space heater that I set it next to, and it dries it real nice and quick. To where it's not sticky or anything. So I'm going around just like you would with a sponge brush or a brush with hair on it or whatever, except the difference is as you can see, I don't know if you can see it when I do this, but when I use the silicone brush, it's giving me all this excess right here where I can use to go up and down, and use all that extra epoxy. Epoxy is expensive, and so the more I can use on one cup, the better, along with the fact that when it is done, the cup does not look bulky and thick. I have messed up a couple of cups that way because they just look funny, like they look off. I don't like the way it sits, personally. I feel like it looks like it's an egg instead of a cup. So I'm gonna touch up the outside right here on the outer rim, slowly all the way around, and I'm gonna go back and forth over it like this, and up and down. I feel like it gets in all of the grooves from the glitter so much smoother and nicer, and there's not any dents or rivets or whatever you'd like to call them. So this silicone brush, I'm telling y'all, the silicone brush, it does so much of the work for you. It just glides over it like this. No hairs getting caught in the glitter, no hairs getting caught in the epoxy. It's utilizing all of the epoxy. You can have just a smidge left in your bottle and you're like, crap, I need to go get more. And this silicone brush, I'm telling you, you could use 3/4 of a teaspoon and make it work. It will stretch for you. It will help you stretch it. You just do this and you get all that excess, which the thickness of the epoxy, I have found, is what takes it so long to get to a dry point. The curing process is obviously very important, but the curing process is also the time frame really depends on how much you're using on your cup, and so therefore using less means less cure time, which means quicker turnaround time. And again, as I said on my last video, cost efficient, making the profit, time efficiency is a big part of it. So we've got a good, nice, mediocre layer. No, I'd say thin layer. It's a pretty thin layer, but as y'all can see, let me put this camera up here. It's pretty nice and even. You can already see it starting to glisten and everything else. I hope y'all can see this. Looks like it's glared. Okay. Now, if you tilt it a little bit, you can kind of see where there's still some grooves in it. But that's okay, because that will be all taken care of once you put your next coat of epoxy over your design. So we've got, and the thinness on the bottom is important. I hope there's not too much glare in this video. And without getting it all over the top, which is a plus and my favorite part, because it is difficult to get out of the inside of the cup. So now I'm going to put it on my turner. And the way that I do this without, if you guys have the footballs, the way I do it without getting my hands on the outside is I hold it like this, okay? My fingers inside, and I push it on, and then I get it over the football, and my hands come off nicely. So then I'm going to turn my turner on. Sorry, gotta get this one off. I'll do that in a minute. Turn my turner on here, and it is underneath a shop light. Let me show you guys. A little shop light, but the heat from the light bulb actually really helps the epoxy to cure. So that is that, and we're gonna let that sit for probably about 3.5 to 4 hours, and then I will move it off my turner and in front of my space heater, and I will show you guys that once I get to that point here in a few hours. All right, thanks y'all for tuning in, and I hope I helped.